Texas?
I think it's Donald Trump's fault that America has gotten to this heated place. I think that
no responsibility for the radicalization on the left that's causing this violent outburst.
That 29-year-old is radicalized by online communities and online algorithms. I'm not going to blame that directly on Trump, but he was caught in a lot of online video game algorithms and all these communities. Donald Trump,
but it's Trump's
10
fault.
Years ago, Donald Trump amped up the tension in America.
So he ran 10 years ago, and this guy then 10 years later, somehow you're connecting. Can't you just take responsibility for it?
Oh,
on the left.
But let's not do the he has to take responsibility because he's a Democrat.
I'm a 22-year-old YouTuber. You want me to take more responsibility than the President of the United States?
I want you to understand.
On Newsnight with Abby Phillip, things get heated as Ahmed Baba and Adam Mockler go head-to-head with Scott Jennings in a fiery debate over Trump's alleged abuse of power and the rising political divide in America. Jennings tries to defend his side, but Adam and Ahmed push back hard with facts about how Trump's rhetoric has fueled tension and chaos across the country. This debate isn't just about politics, it's about truth, accountability, and the kind of leadership the U.S. really needs.
The series of events that took place here, we have to actually be clear about what happened, right? He tried to pressure Eric Siebert at the Eastern District of Virginia to pursue this prosecution. He did not. The U.S. prosecutors there said they did not see enough evidence. So he forces him out. He publicly declares to Pam Bondi, you need to target these political enemies, specifically labeling James Comey. And then, right after that, installs Lindsay Halligan, a former insurance lawyer with no prosecutorial experience, to go in there, and then within days, Comey's indicted. Even after rank and file prosecutors, they gave her a declination memo that said, this is why we don't think there's enough evidence. So I don't think this is just the process playing out. I think this is Donald Trump explicitly abusing his power and directing a prosecution of a political enemy.
You said we have to be very clear about what happened, and then you left out the most critical part, where a prosecutor has to go into a grand jury, present the evidence, and make the case why charges are warranted. And the grand jury has to agree with that. In this case, they did. Now, I don't know if he'll be convicted or not, but you can't leave out and deny that there's a critical step where average, ordinary Americans get put in a room and they ultimately have to decide, does a case go or does it not go? And then they will decide whether you're guilty or whether you're not guilty. That is an important part of the process that he cannot really alter or change.
Just worth noting, I mean, two things. One, there was a third charge that the grand jury said no to. But also, I mean, this is, you probably will hear a lot about this as this proceeds. Probable cause is what you need to get a charge, which is a very low bar. Beyond a reasonable doubt is what you need to actually convict. But to Alyssa's point, that may not be the point of the message that's being sent here.
Yeah, Donald Trump has done this with a few people. He directly calls out their name online on his Truth Social, and then within days, you see them either targeted, their show gets pulled off, they get indicted. And when it comes to Eric Siebert, you can sit here and argue that, Trump had nothing to do with this, but it's so clear that he was putting his thumb on the scale when he fired Eric Siebert, and then, 6 days before the statute of limitations are up, this new federal prosecutor is rushing this through. And I agree, we should let the process play out. It's fine to let it go through a grand jury, but can you at least concede that Trump was putting his thumb on the scale when he posted Comey's name, 4 days before Comey was indicted?
I don't think anyone is disputing that he thinks James Comey
Did he put his thumb on the scale,
is a bad person who deserves to be investigated, and if a grand jury so chooses,
Did Trump
indicted.
put his thumb on the scale, though?
He has never denied that. He's been very clear about it, has he not?
Isn't this all just kind of exhausting for the American public? Like, Trump did run on we shouldn't weaponize the DOJ.
It's exhausting now?
No, it was exhausting when Biden did it. It was exhausting.
Now we're exhausted.
No. I criticized it when Joe Biden did it.
Can I ask you?
But now he's choosing to do the exact same thing at a much grander scale, all while there are fewer jobs than there are people unemployed right now.
James Comey's not running for president. He was running for president.
He had a trial.
Can anyone point to one single example of President Joe Biden, privately or publicly, in any documented evidence of our reality, directing his Attorney General Merrick Garland to prosecute his political opponents, let alone protect his own son, who got indicted under his watch? When did
what?
Show me.
He pardoned him.
I want to hear. Show me the answer to when did he direct Merrick Garland to prosecute Donald Trump?
I want to hear an answer to that.
He publicly, in a Politico story, was reported to have been fuming to anyone who would listen that Merrick Garland was not moving fast enough.
Did he tell Merrick Garland?
He publicly was fuming.
Alright, this part gets pretty heated. Ahmed Baba and Adam Mockler are absolutely right to call out what's happening here. Scott keeps talking about letting the process play out. But let's be real, when the person pulling the strings is the one who installed the prosecutors, that process is already tainted. Grand juries can only decide based on the evidence that prosecutors choose to present. And if the entire investigation starts from political pressure, the so-called neutrality is already gone. Think about it. Trump has a history of publicly attacking people right before legal action magically follows. Comey, Bragg, even E. Jean Carroll. It's a clear pattern. That's not the justice system running its course. That's power being weaponized to send a message. And when Scott tries to say Biden did it too, it's just false equivalence. There's zero documented proof that Biden ever ordered Garland to go after Trump. At some point, we have to admit, using the justice system to settle political scores. That's dangerous for democracy, no matter who does it. Ahmed's point hits hard because this isn't just about one case. It's about setting a precedent that leaders can bend the law to their will. That's not justice. That's corruption disguised as due process.
Privately? Is that what you said right there?
He asked for evidence of it. It was in a Politico, so there was reporting on it.
Did he tell Merrick Garland,
I don't know what he did.
Prosecute
here we go.
these specific people?
And by the way, I don't know a living Democrat who thinks Merrick Garland
I think this is super important. So are you suggesting that because Joe Biden was angry about something but didn't express it to Merrick Garland, that constitutes
You don't know
pressure
whether
on
he
Merrick
did or he
Garland?
didn't, but I know it was put in a story.
But do you know?
This is what you guys just said. He says things out loud.
Scott,
Joe Biden said things out loud or had it reported in a Politico, so people would hear it.
Factual issue here with this idea that Democrats, Joe Biden did this to Trump.
I didn't bring up Joe Biden. I'm not the person who rejected this.
But listen, where's the proof? Don't we need proof
to be honest,
that
I
actually
think
happened?
We either need to agree that weaponizing the DOJ against political adversaries is bad or it's not. I think it's bad regardless of who's doing it. I think that Donald Trump ran on not doing it, and he is directly doing it.
Are you sure
here.
Comey is not guilty?
No, and I'm not prejudging that. I've talked about this extensively on air. If there is any wrongdoing,
it's bad for Trump to place pressure
I
to indict him.
think that putting what looks like a DM to your attorney general on Truth Social and being like, you only got a few days, it's not good. It ain't good.
Ahmed asked for them to point out either any example of Joe Biden doing this. No example. Scott Jennings said, I don't know anything. That's always your fallback. Donald Trump directly asked Pam Bondi.
There was a story.
Do you remember when Biden said, hey, Merrick, can you go after this person? It didn't happen. You have no example.
And also,
it's literally in the news. I'm sorry to. I know you're like 12, but it happened.
You're a smart dude.
It's like it happened.
It was never reported. And also,
it was reported.
No, it was never reported that he told Merrick Garland to indict.
And
that was never reported. We know that.
Okay.
And also, I just have to say,
the reporting said or not?
Yes. No, there was a story.
The reporting said that he told Merrick Garland.
The point of the story was that Joe Biden was mad and he was angry, and the point of the story was that it would get out so that they would feel pressure to move on it.
Wait, and he told who?
It was done in the reporting.
Okay. Adam, I want to play what Bill Maher said about this is in the same genre and get your take on the other side.
The Democrats definitely need an outsider. To me, the Democratic Party is a ghost brand. And if you could have somebody take it over who's not sentimental about that company and, relaunch it, rebrand it, but it would have to be somebody who is unapologetic about calling them out. People have lost faith in the Democratic Party for very good reasons. You're the only one I hear who doesn't look like he cares what the other Democrats will say.
He compared them to Abercrombie and Fitch, a ghost brand. What do you think?
I think that, he's right that we need more unapologetic Democrats, but it's more than that. The Democratic brand is two things right now. It's a lot of things, but it's both risk averse and it's very, very finger waggy. So all of our politicians are incredibly risk averse. So they're not out there taking risks or trying to do new things. They're playing it very, very safe. Even as much as I love Kamala Harris and I thought she did well on her campaign, she was very risk averse during all of that. But on the other side of that, while they're being risk averse, they're also just purity testing everybody and finger wagging them. I'm a young dude. I like a little bit of edge in my politicians. I think most young dudes like an edgy politician, not somebody who's out there being, super scripted and tested and everything. So all this comes together to create an environment where I had a young friend the other day who's pretty liberal say that the Democratic Party feels quote unquote suffocating at times. And I think that's a good way to put it.
It's that and academic a lot of times. The simplicity is missing in the message.
This exchange right here is a perfect example of how Scott Jennings keeps leaning on "I don't know" whenever he's cornered on the facts. Abby and Adam are pressing for actual proof, and that's the thing, there isn't any. There's no record, no memo, no leak, nothing showing Joe Biden ever told Merrick Garland to prosecute Trump. Period. If that existed, it'd be headline news on every major outlet. Meanwhile, Trump's situation is completely different. The man literally posts public messages on Truth Social, hinting what he wants prosecutors to do. That's not subtle pressure. That's straight up broadcasting influence. Scott tries to downplay it like it's just reporting, but even the perception of political interference matters. It shakes public trust in the justice system. And Adam's point about the Democratic Party being risk averse actually connects here. Democrats bend over backward to avoid even the appearance of bias, while Republicans are out here normalizing political retaliation. That's why this debate matters, because pretending both sides are doing the same thing is lazy analysis. One side is actively undermining institutions, and the other is too cautious to call it what it is.
Donald Trump is being accused of inciting violence after his warning to Democrats. This in response to the new developments in the deadly attack at an ICE facility.
The radical left is causing the problem. They're out of control. They're saying things, and they're really dumb people. I mean, I look at Crockett. I look at some of these people. They're very low IQ people, actually. But the radical left is causing this problem, not the right, the radical left. And it's going to get worse, and ultimately it's going to go back on them. I mean, bad things happen when they play these games. And I'll give you a little clue. The right is a lot tougher than the left. But the right's not doing this. They're not doing it, and they better not get them energized.
That was an odd thing to say. I mean, in this moment, the point about the kind of anti-ICE nature of the shooting is taken, right? We know that. But then for him to say it might come back to them, I'm not sure that that is what's right here.
Yeah, I'm pretty tired of conservatives gaslighting about the current political environment and Donald Trump's rhetoric when all of this escalation can be traced back to his entrance into American politics. His claim to fame was saying that Obama wasn't born in America. He was the first presidential candidate to have his crowd chant, "Lock her up," about a political opponent. You can bring up the insurrection. Even in the past few weeks, my home city of Chicago, he posted a photo of Chicago being invaded by the Department of War. So the broader point here is Donald Trump endlessly deflects and tries to blame it on the other side when he is the one responsible for amping up the tension in America. And I've spent all of my formative years throughout high school, throughout college, looking to the president, who I'm supposed to be able to look up to, and seeing somebody who's trying to place blame on the left, who's amping up the rhetoric constantly. And yeah, it's not good.
So you think it's Donald Trump's fault that a deranged leftist climbed up to the top of a building and shot up the ICE facility, not once now, but twice in Texas?
I think it's Donald Trump's fault that America has gotten to this heated place. I think that
no responsibility for the radicalization on the left that's causing this violent outburst.
That 29-year-old is radicalized by online communities and online algorithms. I'm not going to blame that directly on Trump, but he was caught in a lot of online video game algorithms and all these communities. Donald Trump,
but it's Trump's
10
fault.
years ago, Donald Trump amped up the tension in America.
So he ran 10 years ago, and this guy then 10 years later, somehow you're connecting. Can't you just take responsibility for it?
Oh,
on the left.
But let's not do the he has to take responsibility because he's a Democrat.
I'm a 22-year-old YouTuber. You want me to take more responsibility than the president of the United States?
I want you to understand.
I'm a 22-year-old YouTuber.
I want you to understand that we are in the middle of an epidemic of left-wing violence. They're attacking ICE. They shot Charlie. It's happening all over the country. We have these Free Palestine people running around trying to burn down the Pennsylvania governor's mansion. On and on
then
and
maybe
on.
The president
it's not Trump's fault
the president of the
that
United
the left
States
is radicalized to the point of saying, we're done talking and we're going to start shooting.
Scott, the data indicates.
Scott, is Trump amping down the tensions?
Amping down the tensions?
Yeah, is he taking the tensions down? Is he trying to do that?
I think he's mad that his friend got murdered, if you want
Okay,
that.
The job of the president is to tone down
You know what's wild about this exchange between Adam Mockler and Scott Jennings? Adam's not just debating politics, he's pointing at something that's been building up for years, how Trump's words have completely reshaped the tone of American life. And honestly, he's right, because this didn't start yesterday. The whole lock her up chants calling people a low IQ, saying the press is the enemy of the people. All of that created an environment where anger became normal and where demeaning your opponents was just part of the game. When Trump says the right is tougher than the left and warns that bad things might happen, that's not leadership. That's a threat wrapped in a grin. Scott keeps bringing up isolated acts of left-wing violence like it somehow balances the scales. But come on. We're talking about patterns here. Decades of research show that political rhetoric from top leaders directly affects how people behave. When someone as powerful as a president constantly paints half the country as enemies, it normalizes hostility. It gives permission for people who are already angry to go a little further, to justify their actions as defending their side. And Adam nails the point that's often missed. Younger Americans are tired of growing up in this tension. We watched political leaders turn every disagreement into a battlefield. You can't just say, oh, both sides do it and move on. The president is supposed to de-escalate, to set a higher tone. If you're in the Oval Office and you're still posting online rants, calling people names and warning about violence, you're not calming the storm, you're fueling it. And that's exactly what Adam's calling out, the responsibility of leadership. Trump isn't the only problem in American politics, but he's definitely the one who poured gasoline on it. Pause. Are you getting tired of getting half the story from biased news sources? One outlet says one thing and another says the complete opposite. How are you supposed to know what's actually true? That's where ground news comes in. It lets you compare how different media outlets, left, right, and center are covering the same story. So you can see the full picture instead of just the echo chamber. And here's the best part. Click the link in the description and get 40% off the Vantage tier, which gives you even deeper insights into media bias and political trends. Stay informed, think for yourself, and check out Ground News in the description down below.